The morning sun beat down mercilessly on Abigail Blackburn's face as rough hands forced her into the back of a covered wagon, her swollen belly making it nearly impossible to climb the wooden step without assistance. At 7 months pregnant, she had become a burden to the men who had captured her 3 days ago, men who had once worked for her deceased husband's mining company, and now sought revenge for what they believed was rightfully theirs. "Please," Abigail begged, wincing as her back pressed against the hard wooden slats. "I need water." Her throat felt like sandpaper after hours of traveling through the Arizona territory without proper sustenance. Jeb Peterson, the ringleader of the 3 outlaws, spat tobacco juice into the dust and glared at her from beneath his grimy hat. "You'll get water when we make camp tonight, not before. The baby," she whispered, placing a protective hand over her abdomen. "I'm worried about the baby." "Should have thought about that before your husband cheated us out of our claim shares," said Morris, the younger and more volatile of the group. "Thomas Blackburn was a thieving snake, and you benefited from every penny he stole." Abigail bit back her retort. Thomas had been many things: stubborn, ambitious, sometimes ruthless in business, but he hadn't been a thief. The men's claims to ownership in the Silver Creek mine had been based on verbal agreements that couldn't be proven after Thomas's sudden death from fever 4 months ago. When the mine showed its first promising silver vein, these men had come calling, demanding their cut. When the law sided with Abigail as the legal owner, they'd taken matters into their own hands. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, though she had asked the question countless times already. Jeb secured the canvas flap, leaving only a small opening for air. "To someone who might pay good money to get the widow of Thomas Blackburn back in one piece. Your father-in-law still has considerable wealth, from what I hear." Abigail closed her eyes. Her father-in-law, Edmund Blackburn, despised her. He had disowned Thomas for marrying beneath his station a schoolteacher with no family connections worth mentioning. If these men were counting on a ransom from Edmund, they would be sorely disappointed. The wagon lurched forward, and Abigail grasped at the wooden frame to steady herself. Her long auburn hair had come loose from its pins, falling in tangled waves around her shoulders. She had been wearing the same blue calico dress for 3 days, and her boots were caked with dust and mud from their journey. She had nothing with her: no food, no water, no change of clothes. They had taken her from the small house on the edge of Silver Creek in the middle of the night, giving her no chance to prepare. Tears threatened, but Abigail blinked them back. She needed to stay strong for her unborn child. Thomas had been gone for 4 months, but he had left her with the greatest gift: their baby. She would not let these men take that from her too. The wagon rolled along the uneven terrain, each bump and dip sending painful jolts through Abigail's already aching body. The summer heat intensified inside the canvas-covered space, making it difficult to breathe. She shifted, trying to find a position that might offer some relief, but the ropes binding her wrists made it nearly impossible. Through the small opening in the canvas, Abigail caught glimpses of the passing landscape: scrubby desert plants, red rock formations in the distance, and the endless blue sky. They were heading west, away from Silver Creek and the small community where she had built a life with Thomas. Away from anyone who might recognize her or come to her aid. Hours passed, marked only by the steady rhythm of the horses' hooves and the occasional shouts between the men. Abigail drifted in and out of consciousness, her body's need for water becoming more desperate with each passing mile. When the wagon suddenly slowed, she roused herself. Male voices argued outside, though she couldn't make out their words over the creaking of the wagon wheels. Then, without warning, a thunderous crack split the air: a gunshot, followed by another. The wagon tilted sharply, throwing Abigail against the side. Wood splintered, and the vehicle came to an abrupt halt, one side significantly lower than the other. Another shot rang out, and the wagon tilted further, now completely lopsided. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Jeb shouted from the driver's seat. "Let the woman go," came a deep, commanding voice Abigail didn't recognize. "Now, this ain't your business, stranger," Morris called back. "I'm making it my business," the unknown man replied, his voice steady and controlled. "I don't take kindly to men forcing pregnant women into wagons against their will." Abigail's heart raced. Someone had seen her. Someone was trying to help. She struggled to her knees, trying to peer through the canvas opening. "She's our property," Jeb insisted. "Her husband owed us." "A woman isn't property," the stranger said, "and neither is her unborn child. I've shot out your wheels. You're not going anywhere. Now untie her and let her go." "There's 3 of us and 1 of you," the third kidnapper, a man named Guthrie, pointed out. A dry chuckle came from the stranger. "I count 3 bullets left in my gun. Seems about right." Abigail heard the metallic click of a hammer being cocked. "You willing to die for a woman you don't even know?" Jeb demanded. There was a pause then. "Are you willing to die for a grudge that won't bring you what you want anyway?" The tense silence that followed was broken by Jeb's frustrated curse. "Fine, take her. She's more trouble than she's worth." The canvas flap was ripped open, and Jeb's weathered face appeared, his expression thunderous. He reached in and roughly dragged Abigail toward the opening. Her legs, numb from hours of confinement, barely supported her as she stumbled out of the wagon. For the first time, she saw her rescuer. He sat tall on a chestnut stallion, rifle still aimed at her captors. The man wore a weathered leather vest over a faded blue shirt, and a cowboy hat shaded his face. His features were sharp and sun-bronzed, with several days' worth of stubble covering his jaw. But it was his eyes that captured her attention, steel blue and piercing. They met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Cut her free," he instructed, gesturing to the ropes on Abigail's wrists with his rifle. Jeb produced a knife and sliced through the bindings. Abigail winced as blood rushed back into her hands, bringing pins and needles of sensation. "Now step back," the cowboy ordered. When the 3 men complied, he extended his hand to Abigail. "Madam, if you'll allow me." Abigail hesitated only a moment before reaching up. His grip was strong and sure as he helped her mount the horse, positioning her sideways in front of him. His arm came around her waist, steadying her and the precious cargo she carried. "This isn't over," Jeb warned, his eyes narrowed with hatred. "For your sake, I hope it is," the cowboy replied evenly. "Because if I see any of you within 100 yards of this lady again, I won't aim for the wagon wheels." Without waiting for a response, he nudged his horse into motion, leaving the 3 men standing beside their disabled wagon. They rode in silence for several minutes, putting distance between themselves and the outlaws. Abigail was acutely aware of the stranger's arm around her, the solid warmth of his chest against her shoulder. After days of fear and rough treatment, the gentle support felt like a miracle. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No need for thanks, madam," he replied. "Couldn't ride past what I saw happening." "My name is Abigail," she offered. "Abigail Blackburn. Adam Reynolds." He adjusted his hold on her as the horse navigated down a slight incline. "How long have they had you?" 3 days, Abigail answered. "They came in the night, my husband. He passed away 4 months ago. These men worked for him and believed they're owed shares in his silver mine." Adam nodded. "I'm sorry about your husband." "Thank you," Abigail murmured, then gasped as a particularly sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. Adam immediately reined in his horse. "Are you all right? The baby?" Abigail took a deep breath, waiting for the pain to pass. "I think so. I haven't had proper water or food. I'm just weak. There's a creek not far from here. We'll stop, get you something to drink, and figure out our next move." Adam guided his horse off the main trail and into a stand of cottonwoods that offered blessed shade from the afternoon sun. When they reached the creek, Adam dismounted first, then gently helped Abigail down. Her legs buckled beneath her, and he caught her before she could fall, his strong hands steadying her. "Easy now," he murmured, guiding her to sit against the trunk of a cottonwood. "Rest here. I'll fetch some water." Abigail watched as Adam removed a canteen from his saddle and filled it in the creek. He returned and knelt beside her, holding the canteen to her lips. "Small sips," he instructed. "Too much too fast will make you sick." The cool water was the sweetest thing Abigail had ever tasted. She forced herself to follow his guidance, taking small sips despite wanting to gulp it down. "Thank you," she said again, studying her rescuer more carefully. He was younger than she'd initially thought, perhaps 30 or so, with laugh lines at the corners of his eyes despite his serious expression. A small scar crossed his left eyebrow, and his hands, though strong and capable, bore the calluses of hard work. "Where were you headed when you came upon us?" Abigail asked. "Nowhere particular," Adam replied, settling beside her. "I've been drifting since the war ended, riding scout for Wagon trains sometimes, doing ranch work when I can find it." "The war?" Abigail questioned. "You fought?" Adam nodded, his expression momentarily distant. "Union cavalry. Been nearly 8 years now since Appomattox, but sometimes it feels like yesterday, and you've been wandering ever since, more or less." He offered a small smile that transformed his serious face. "Hard to settle in one place after seeing so much of the country." Abigail studied him thoughtfully. "Well, I'm grateful your wandering brought you my way today, Mr. Reynolds. Just Adam, please." He passed her a strip of dried beef from his saddlebag. "Eat this slowly. It'll help your strength." As Abigail chewed the tough meat, Adam tended to his horse, removing the saddle to let the animal rest. His movements were efficient and practiced. "Speaking of years in the saddle, how far along are you?" he asked, nodding toward her rounded belly. 7 months or thereabouts," Abigail answered, placing a protective hand over her abdomen. "The doctor in Silver Creek said the baby should come in late August." "And where were those men taking you?" "They mentioned my father-in-law, Edmund Blackburn. He owns a cattle ranch near Prescott. I believe they intended to ransom me to him." Abigail gave a mirthless laugh. "They clearly never met the man. He despised me from the moment Thomas introduced us. He would sooner see me dead than pay a cent for my return." Adam frowned. "You have no other family?" "None," Abigail confirmed. "My parents died when I was 16. I was teaching school in Denver when I met Thomas. We were married 6 months later and moved to Silver Creek when he found silver deposits there. And now the mine is technically mine, though I know nothing about running it. The foreman has kept operations going since Thomas died, but these men," she shook her head. "They believe Thomas promised them shares. Without him to confirm or deny it, they took matters into their own hands." Adam was quiet for a moment, considering. "Silver Creek isn't far. I can have you back there by tomorrow evening." Abigail's heart sank. "I can't go back there, not yet. Those men will return and I have no protection." She looked down at her hands. "The sheriff in Silver Creek is Jeb's cousin. He won't help me. You have nowhere else to go." "No," Abigail admitted. The reality of her situation crashed down upon her. Homeless, pregnant, and hunted, it was almost too much to bear. Adam studied her for a long moment, then nodded decisively. "I have a friend who runs a way station about a day's ride from here. Eliza's a good woman, used to be a midwife back east. We'll head there, get you proper rest and care." Relief washed over Abigail. "I can pay you for your trouble," she assured him. "Once I'm safe, I can arrange to access funds from the mine." Adam shook his head. "That's not necessary, Mrs. Blackburn." "Abigail, please," she insisted. "And I won't hear of not compensating you for your help." A small smile touched Adam's lips. "Let's focus on getting you somewhere safe first. We can discuss payment later." As the afternoon wore on, Adam built a small fire and prepared a simple meal of beans and more jerky. Abigail's strength gradually returned with food and water, though exhaustion still pulled at her. She found herself studying Adam when he wasn't looking, the careful precision of his movements, the quiet confidence he exuded, the gentleness with which he treated both his horse and her. "How did you come to be riding through this particular stretch of territory today?" she asked as the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Adam poked at the fire with a stick. Luck, I suppose, or providence. I was heading toward Tucson, thought I might find work at one of the ranches there. And now you're headed in the opposite direction, Abigail observed. He met her eyes across the fire. Some things are more important than my original plans. Something in his steady gaze made Abigail's heart flutter unexpectedly. She looked away, attributing the reaction to her exhausted state and gratitude for his rescue. We should get some rest, Adam suggested. We'll start at first light tomorrow. He offered Abigail his bedroll, which she initially refused, but his insistence won out. As she settled onto the surprisingly comfortable blankets, Adam took up position on the other side of the fire, his rifle close at hand. "You think they'll come looking for us?" Abigail asked, unable to keep the worry from her voice. "They'd be fools to try," Adam answered, "but don't worry. I'm a light sleeper." Despite her fears, exhaustion soon claimed Abigail. The last thing she remembered before drifting off was Adam's watchful figure silhouetted against the star-filled sky, a guardian she hadn't known she needed until today. Morning came with the gentle touch of Adam's hand on her shoulder. "Abigail," he said softly, "it's time to go. I've made coffee." Abigail blinked awake, momentarily confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. Then the events of the previous day rushed back her rescue, the disabled wagon, the mysterious cowboy who had saved her. "Thank you," she murmured, accepting the tin cup he offered. The coffee was strong and bitter, but the warmth was welcome in the cool morning air. "How are you feeling?" Adam asked, studying her face with concern. "Better," Abigail admitted, though still sore from days in that wagon. "We'll take it slow today," he promised. "It's about 20 miles to Eliza's place. We can make it by sundown if we pace ourselves." After a simple breakfast of hardtack soaked in coffee, Adam helped Abigail onto his horse. This time, she felt more secure as his arm encircled her waist, holding her steady as they set off. The horse, which Adam had called Rusty, seemed unbothered by the double burden. As they rode, the landscape gradually changed from arid desert to rolling grasslands dotted with juniper and pinyon pine. Adam pointed out landmarks and shared stories of his travels, his deep voice a comforting rumble against Abigail's back. "You know this country well," she observed after he described the mountain range visible on the horizon. "I spent time here after the war before moving further west," Adam explained. "Worked as a ranch hand for a spell, then scouted for the army." "You don't seem like the solitary type," Abigail ventured. "Why have you never settled down?" Adam was quiet for so long that she wondered if she had overstepped. Finally, he said, "I was engaged once before the war. Her name was Catherine. She was the daughter of my father's business partner back in Pennsylvania. What happened? I went to war. She wrote faithfully for the first year, then the letters stopped coming." His voice held no bitterness, only a resigned acceptance. "Later, I learned she'd married a banker who didn't have to go fight. Can't blame her, really. 4 years is a long time to wait for someone who might never come home." "I'm sorry," Abigail said softly. "Don't be," Adam replied. "It was a lifetime ago. And truth be told, I wasn't the same man who left to fight. Wouldn't have been fair to expect her to love the man who came back." Abigail thought about Thomas, how different he had been from Adam. Thomas had been ambitious, always chasing the next opportunity, the next big strike. He had been kind to her but distracted, his mind always on his business ventures. Their marriage had been comfortable but lacking the deep connection she had dreamed of as a girl. "And you?" Adam asked, interrupting her thoughts. "How did you meet your husband?" "I was teaching school in Denver," Abigail replied. "Thomas came to a social held by the church. He was handsome, charming, full of big dreams. He courted me for 6 weeks before proposing. You must have loved him very much." Abigail hesitated. "I admired him," she admitted. "And I was fond of him. Love grew over time." It wasn't quite a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. She had never experienced the kind of all-consuming love described in novels, but she had been content with Thomas. "When he died, I mourned him deeply, especially knowing our child would never know their father." That's a heavy burden, Adam acknowledged. Yes, but also a blessing, Abigail said, her hand resting on her belly where the baby had just kicked. This child is all I have left of him, a new beginning amid the ending. They stopped at midday near a small spring to rest and water the horse. Adam helped Abigail down, his hands lingering at her waist a moment longer than necessary. She found herself noticing small details about him, the way the sunlight caught the auburn highlights in his brown hair, how his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, the gentle way he spoke to Rusty as he led the horse to drink. How much further? Abigail asked as they shared the remains of Adam's provisions. About 10 miles, he answered. We'll be there before dark. As they prepared to resume their journey, the sound of approaching horses made them both freeze. Adam immediately reached for his rifle, positioning himself between Abigail and the potential threat. Get behind that rock, he instructed quietly, nodding toward a large boulder. If there's trouble, stay hidden. Abigail did as he asked, her heart pounding as she crouched behind the boulder. From her position, she could see Adam standing tall, rifle ready but not raised, as 3 riders appeared around the bend in the trail. To her immense relief, Adam lowered his weapon as the riders approached. "Thompson," he called out in greeting, "didn't expect to see you in these parts." The lead rider, a gray-haired man with a weathered face, reined in his horse. "Reynolds, well, I'll be damned, thought you were headed to Tucson." "Change of plans," Adam replied easily. He glanced back toward Abigail and beckoned her forward. "Mrs. Blackburn, these are friends, it's safe." Abigail emerged from behind the boulder, one hand instinctively protecting her belly. The 3 riders, all men in their 40s or 50s, dressed in the practical garb of working cowboys, regarded her with surprise. Mrs. Blackburn was in some trouble, Adam explained. "I'm escorting her to Eliza Porter's Way station." The gray-haired man, Thompson, tipped his hat to Abigail. "Madam, Frank Thompson, foreman at the Circle D Ranch. These are my men, Bill and Samuel." "Pleased to meet you," Abigail replied, though she remained wary. "We're tracking some cattle rustlers," Thompson explained. "Took 20 head 3 nights back. You haven't seen any sign of driven cattle, have you?" Adam shook his head. "Nothing, but we came from the east. Your rustlers likely headed south toward the border." Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "That's my thinking too." He studied Abigail for a moment. "Begging your pardon, madam, but you look like you've had a rough go of it. Need any assistance?" "Adam has been very helpful," Abigail assured him, "but thank you for your concern." "We're managing," Adam added. "Planning to reach Eliza's by nightfall," Thompson nodded again. "Well, if you're in good hands with Reynolds here, we'll continue on our way." He touched the brim of his hat again. "Madam, safe travels to you. Reynolds, good to see you again. Stop by the ranch when you're in these parts next time." "Will do," Adam promised. The 3 riders continued on their way, and Abigail let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Friends of yours?" she asked as Adam helped her back onto Rusty. "Acquaintances," Adam clarified. "I worked at the Circle D for a few months 2 years back." "Thompson's a good man. Honest." As they resumed their journey, Abigail found herself increasingly aware of Adam's physical presence, the strength in his arms as he guided the horse, the steady beat of his heart against her back, the clean scent of him despite days in the saddle. It was disconcerting to feel such awareness of a man she had just met, especially in her condition. "Tell me about Eliza Porter," she requested, trying to distract herself from these unsettling thoughts. "Eliza's husband was my commanding officer during the war," Adam explained. "Captain James Porter, good man, fair leader. He didn't make it home, died at Petersburg in '65, just months before the surrender. Eliza moved west afterward, said there were too many ghosts back east. She runs the Way station now, offering meals and lodging to travelers, and she still uses her midwifery skills when needed." "She sounds remarkable," Abigail said. "She is," Adam agreed. "Strong as they come, but kind too. She'll know how to help you." The afternoon passed in companionable conversation. Adam shared stories of his travels, from the mountains of Colorado to the coast of California. Abigail told him about her years as a teacher, the books she loved, and her hopes for her child's future. Despite their brief acquaintance, she found herself speaking more openly with Adam than she ever had with Thomas. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, they crested a hill, and Adam pointed to a cluster of buildings in the distance. "That's Eliza's place, Porter's Crossing," she calls it. The way station consisted of a main building with a broad porch, a barn, a corral, and several smaller outbuildings. Smoke rose from the chimney, and lanterns glowed warmly in the gathering dusk. As they approached, a woman emerged from the main building, shading her eyes against the setting sun. "Adam Reynolds, is that you?" she called. "It's me, Eliza," Adam replied, bringing Rusty to a halt in front of the porch. Eliza Porter was a tall, lean woman in her 40s, with streaks of gray in her dark hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She wore a practical calico dress with the sleeves rolled up, and her hands bore the marks of hard work. "Well, you're a sight for sore eyes," she declared, then noticed Abigail. Her expression shifted from delight to concern. "And who might this be?" Adam dismounted and helped Abigail down. "This is Abigail Blackburn. She's in need of help." Eliza's sharp eyes took in Abigail's condition, both her pregnancy and her disheveled appearance. "I can see that," she said, her voice softening. "Come inside, dear. You look dead on your feet." The interior of the way station was warm and inviting. A large common room held several tables and a stone fireplace, while doorways led to what appeared to be a kitchen and private quarters. A staircase suggested rooms on a second floor. "Sit down, both of you," Eliza instructed, guiding Abigail to a chair near the fire. "I've got stew simmering and fresh bread, but first let's get you some tea." While Eliza bustled about, Adam explained Abigail's situation in low tones. The older woman's expression grew grave as she heard of the kidnapping and Abigail's precarious circumstances. "You poor dear," she said, placing a cup of steaming tea in front of Abigail. "Well, you're safe now. You can stay as long as you need." "Thank you," Abigail said, the kindness bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. "I can pay for my keep." "We'll sort all that out later," Eliza assured her. "For now, you need food, rest, and a proper bath, and I'd like to check on that baby of yours if you'll permit it." After a hearty meal of venison stew and fresh bread, Eliza showed Abigail to a small but comfortable bedroom on the second floor. A copper tub stood ready, filled with steaming water scented with lavender. "Take your time," Eliza said. "I'll find you a clean nightgown and something to wear tomorrow. We're close enough in size that my things should do until we can wash yours." Left alone, Abigail sank into the bath with a grateful sigh. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to truly relax, letting the warm water soothe her aching muscles and wash away the dust and fear of her ordeal. As she bathed, her thoughts turned to Adam. He had saved her life, shown her kindness when she was most vulnerable, and asked for nothing in return. His quiet strength and gentle manner had provided a sanctuary in her time of need. She wondered what would happen now. Would he continue on his way to Tucson once he was satisfied she was safe? The thought brought an unexpected pang of sadness. Later, dressed in a borrowed nightgown, Abigail sat on the edge of the bed while Eliza examined her with practiced hands. "The baby seems healthy," Eliza pronounced. "Good strong heartbeat. But you need rest and proper nourishment after what you've been through. Promise me you'll take it easy for the next few days." "I promise," Abigail agreed readily. "I don't know how to thank you for taking me in like this," Eliza smiled. "No thanks needed. Adam wouldn't have brought you here if you weren't deserving of help." She patted Abigail's hand. "Get some sleep now. We can talk more tomorrow." After Eliza left, Abigail settled into the bed, the clean sheets and soft pillow a luxury after days of captivity and a night on the ground. Just as she was drifting off, a soft knock came at her door. "Yes," she called. The door opened slightly, and Adam stood in the doorway. He had clearly washed up as well, his hair damp and his face freshly shaved, revealing a strong jawline previously hidden by stubble. "Just wanted to check on you before turning in," he said. "Eliza says you and the baby are doing well." "Yes, thanks to you," Abigail replied. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along when you did." Adam shook his head. "You're safe now, that's what matters." He hesitated, then added, "I'll be staying on for a few days. Eliza could use some help with repairs around the place." Abigail couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. "I'm glad. I didn't get to properly thank you for everything." "No thanks necessary," Adam assured her, echoing Eliza's words. "Get some rest, Abigail. I'll see you in the morning." After he closed the door, Abigail lay back against the pillows, a curious warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time since Thomas's death, perhaps even before she felt truly safe. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt something like hope. The days at Porter's Crossing fell into a peaceful rhythm. Abigail regained her strength under Eliza's watchful care, eating hearty meals and resting frequently. Adam worked around the property, mending fences, repairing the barn roof, and helping with the daily chores that kept the way station functioning. Travelers came and went, cowboys moving cattle, families in wagons seeking new opportunities further west, mail carriers on their regular routes. Eliza welcomed them all, providing meals and lodging for modest fees, and occasionally tending to minor injuries or ailments with her medicinal knowledge. On her third day at the way station, Abigail insisted on helping with the cooking and cleaning, unwilling to be merely a guest when Eliza had so many responsibilities. The older woman agreed reluctantly, with the condition that Abigail take frequent breaks and avoid any heavy lifting. "You've got skills in the kitchen," Eliza observed as they prepared supper together. Thomas was a lucky man, Abigail smiled. "My mother taught me to cook. She believed every woman should know how to run a household, even if I was more interested in books and teaching." "And what will you do now?" Eliza asked, her tone gentle but direct. "Have you given thought to your next steps?" Abigail's hands stilled over the dough she was kneading. "I need to secure my rights to the mine," she said. "It's the legacy Thomas left for our child. But I can't return to Silver Creek, not with those men still looking for me. And your father-in-law, could he help? Edmund Blackburn would sooner see me destitute than offer assistance," Abigail replied. "He never approved of me, said Thomas married beneath him." Eliza snorted. "Men and their pride, never understood it myself." Through the window, Abigail could see Adam chopping wood in the yard, his shirt discarded in the summer heat. She found her gaze lingering on the play of muscles across his back and shoulders as he worked, and quickly looked away when she realized Eliza had noticed her attention. "He's a good man," Eliza said quietly. "One of the best I've known since James." "Yes," Abigail agreed, her cheeks warming. "He saved my life." "It's more than that," Eliza observed. "I've known Adam for years. He's never stayed in one place this long without good reason." Abigail didn't know how to respond to the implication in Eliza's words. The idea that Adam might have feelings for her seemed impossible. They had only just met, and she was pregnant with another man's child. Yet she couldn't deny the connection she felt with him, the way her heart quickened when he entered a room, the comfort she found in his quiet presence. "I'm still in mourning," Abigail said softly, "and my situation is complicated." "Life usually is," Eliza replied with a shrug, "especially out here, but sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the greatest happiness." That evening, after supper had been served and the travelers settled for the night, Abigail found herself alone on the porch with Adam. The summer night was warm, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of sage and pine. Stars sparkled overhead in a velvet sky, more than Abigail had ever seen in Denver or Silver Creek. "It's beautiful here," she remarked, breaking the companionable silence. "Peaceful," Adam agreed. He sat on the porch steps, his long legs stretched out before him. "Different from Silver Creek." "Very," Abigail said. Silver Creek is all about the mine. Everything revolves around it, the schedule, the conversations, even the air is filled with dust from the operations. She sighed. I never really belonged there. It was Thomas's world, not mine. What was your world? Adam asked, turning to look at her. Abigail considered the question. Books, learning, teaching children. I loved being a school teacher in Denver. The children's excitement when they mastered reading or figures. There's nothing quite like it. You could teach again, Adam suggested. Perhaps, Abigail agreed, once the baby is born and old enough. She placed her hand on her rounded belly. Everything I do now must consider this little one. Adam nodded, his expression thoughtful. You'll be a good mother, Abigail, I can tell. How? She asked, genuinely curious. The way you talk about the future, it's always with the child in mind. Not everyone thinks that way. He looked up at the stars. My own mother was like that, always put us children first, even when times were hard, especially then. You don't speak much of your family, Abigail observed. Not much to tell, Adam replied. Father owned a small general store in Pennsylvania. Mother raised the four of us, I'm the youngest. Both passed before the war. My brothers are scattered now, one in Chicago, one in Oregon. Sister married a doctor and lives in St. Louis. He shrugged. We write occasionally, but our paths don't cross much. You must get lonely, Abigail said softly. Adam was quiet for a long moment. Used to think being alone meant being free, no responsibilities, no one to disappoint or be disappointed by. He looked at her, his blue eyes reflecting the starlight. Not sure I believe that anymore. The intensity of his gaze made Abigail's breath catch. There was something unspoken in his words, something that made her heart race in a way it hadn't in years, perhaps ever. Before she could respond, the door opened behind them and Eliza appeared. There you two are. Adam, that cowboy who arrived late, is asking about the trail to Prescott, says he's never been that way before. Adam nodded and stood. I'll talk to him. He glanced back at Abigail. Good night, Abigail. Good night, she replied, watching him disappear into the house. She remained on the porch a while longer, contemplating the stars and the curious feeling that her life was on the verge of changing once again. A week passed, then another. Abigail's presence at Porter's Crossing began to feel less temporary and more like belonging. She helped Eliza with the cooking and accounts, started a small garden of herbs for the kitchen, and even began teaching the station manager's children, who lived in a small house nearby, for an hour each afternoon. Adam, too, had settled into a routine. He took over the maintenance of the property, handled the horses and livestock, and occasionally guided travelers who needed direction through the territory. In the evenings, he often sat with Abigail on the porch, sharing stories of his travels or listening to her read from one of Eliza's books. It was during one such evening, nearly 3 weeks after their arrival, that a rider approached the way station at a gallop. Adam immediately stood, hand moving to the pistol he wore at his hip. Stay here, he told Abigail, stepping down from the porch as the rider drew nearer. Abigail recognized the man as he came into the light from the station window's Bill, one of the cowboys who had been with Frank Thompson when they encountered Adam and Abigail on the trail. Reynolds, Bill called, reining in his horse. Need to talk to you. Adam approached the man as he dismounted. They spoke in low voices that Abigail couldn't quite make out. After a few minutes, Adam nodded and clasped Bill's shoulder. The cowboy remounted and rode off the way he had come, his horse still breathing hard from the journey. When Adam returned to the porch, his expression was grave. What is it? Abigail asked, her hand instinctively moving to protect her belly. Bad news. Adam sat beside her on the bench. Thompson sent Bill to warn us. The men who took you, they've been asking questions all over the territory, looking for a pregnant woman and the man who helped her escape. They were at the Circle D 2 days ago. Cold fear washed over Abigail. They're still looking for me, for us, Adam corrected. Seems they're particularly interested in finding me. Thompson told them nothing, but he thought we should know they're getting closer. What do we do? Abigail whispered, the peaceful existence she had begun to build crumbling around her. Adam took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. You're safe here for now. Eliza's place is off the main trails, and Thompson wouldn't have sent Bill if he thought the men were following. But they'll find us eventually, Abigail said, her voice hollow. Not if we resolve this first, Adam replied. It's time to deal with the situation properly, not just keep running. How? I'll ride to Prescott tomorrow, Adam said. The territorial marshal has an office there. I'll explain the situation, get them to issue warrants for those men. Kidnapping is a serious offense, especially of a woman in your condition. But the local sheriff in Silver Creek won't be able to override a territorial marshal, Adam finished. This is bigger than one sheriff in a mining town. Abigail considered his plan. And if the marshal doesn't believe you, if he doesn't help, then we'll find another way, Adam promised. But I won't let those men hurt you or your child, Abigail. You have my word on that. The conviction in his voice was so strong, so absolute, that Abigail believed him completely. In that moment, she realized that her feelings for Adam had grown far beyond gratitude or friendship. She cared for him deeply, perhaps even loved him, though the thought was terrifying in its implications. I'm coming with you, she declared. To Prescott. Adam shook his head. It's not safe. The journey is long, and in your condition, my condition is precisely why I need to go, Abigail insisted. The marshal needs to see me, to hear my account firsthand. A pregnant woman's testimony about her own kidnapping will carry more weight than a drifter's second-hand report, no matter how well-intentioned. Adam frowned, clearly torn between acknowledging her logic and his desire to protect her. Besides, Abigail continued, if those men are searching the territory, I'm no safer here than on the road with you. At least together we have a chance to resolve this permanently. After a long moment, Adam nodded reluctantly. We'll talk to Eliza. If she agrees it's safe for you to travel, we'll leave at first light. Eliza, predictably, was against the idea. Absolutely not, she declared when they explained their plan. Abigail, you're 8 months pregnant. The journey to Prescott is hard enough for a person in perfect health. I'm stronger now, Abigail argued, and we'll take it slowly. Adam will be with me the entire time. And if you go into labor on the trail, what then? Eliza demanded. You said yourself the baby isn't due for at least 3 more weeks, Abigail pointed out. We can reach Prescott in 4 days, speak to the marshal, and be back before then. Eliza looked to Adam, clearly expecting him to support her opposition. Tell her this is madness, Reynolds. To Abigail's surprise, Adam said, I think she's right, Eliza. Her testimony will carry more weight than mine, and keeping her safe means ending this threat, not just hiding from it. Eliza threw up her hands in frustration. You're both impossible. She fixed Adam with a stern look. If anything happens to her or that baby, Adam Reynolds, I will hold you personally responsible. I'd expect nothing less, Adam replied solemnly. The matter decided, Eliza reluctantly helped them prepare for the journey. She packed provisions, medicines for Abigail, and wrote detailed instructions for what to do if the baby decided to arrive early. They set out at dawn the next morning, Abigail riding Eliza's gentle mare, while Adam led the way on Rusty. Eliza stood on the porch, watching them go with visible concern. We'll be back before you know it, Abigail called, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Just come back safe, Eliza replied. Both of you. The journey to Prescott was slow but steady. Adam set an easy pace, choosing the smoothest trails and stopping frequently to allow Abigail to rest. They camped early each evening, and Adam made sure Abigail was as comfortable as possible, constructing a bed of pine boughs covered with blankets and building a fire to ward off the night chill. On the second night, as they sat beside their campfire, Abigail found herself studying Adam's profile, illuminated by the dancing flames. He had become so important to her in such a short time. The thought of continuing her life without him by her side seemed increasingly unbearable. "What will you do?" she asked suddenly. "After this is resolved," Adam looked up from the fire. "What do you mean? Will you continue to Tucson as you planned? Find work at a ranch there?" His eyes held hers for a long moment. "I haven't decided." Abigail gathered her courage. "You could stay." "At Porter's Crossing, Eliza needs the help and—" She hesitated, then finished softly, "and I would like it if you stayed." Adam's expression softened. "Abigail, I know it's presumptuous of me," she hurried on. "We've only known each other a short time and my situation is complicated." "But she faltered, unsure how to express the depth of her feelings. Adam moved to sit beside her, taking her hand in his. "Nothing about this has been conventional," he said, his voice low and earnest, "but I've come to care for you, Abigail. More than I thought possible after such a brief acquaintance." Hope blossomed in Abigail's chest. "Truly, truly," he confirmed, "but you're right, your situation is complicated. You're still grieving Thomas, preparing for the birth of his child. I wouldn't want to rush you into something you might regret." "I don't regret meeting you," Abigail said. "I don't regret anything that's happened between us. Thomas was a good man and I cared for him deeply, but what I feel for you—" She shook her head, struggling to find the words. "It's different, stronger, more real somehow." Adam's hand tightened around hers. "I want to build something with you, Abigail, a life, a future, but first we need to ensure you and your child are safe, one step at a time." Abigail nodded, her heart full. "One step at a time," she agreed. Adam leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. When she didn't, he pressed his lips to hers in a gentle, questioning kiss. Abigail responded with a certainty that surprised even her hand coming up to rest against his cheek. When they finally parted, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "We should get some rest," he murmured. "Still 2 days to Prescott." Abigail nodded, though she was reluctant to break the connection between them. As she settled into her makeshift bed, she felt lighter than she had in months, perhaps years. Despite the dangers they still faced, hope for the future burned brightly within her. The next day, they continued their journey through increasingly forested terrain. The higher elevation brought cooler air and denser vegetation. By mid-afternoon, Adam estimated they had covered nearly 15 miles. "We're making good time," he told Abigail during one of their rest stops. "Another day and a half should see us in Prescott." Abigail nodded, trying to mask her discomfort. She had been experiencing intermittent back pain since morning, but didn't want to worry Adam or delay their journey. The pain wasn't severe, just persistent, likely the result of hours in the saddle, she told herself. As they prepared to continue, Adam studied her face. "Are you all right? You look pale." "Just tired," Abigail assured him. "Nothing to worry about." Adam frowned, clearly unconvinced. "We can make camp early today. There's a good spot by a creek not far ahead." "I'm fine to continue," Abigail insisted. "Really?" Reluctantly, Adam helped her back onto the mare and they proceeded. The back pain continued to come and go, but Abigail gritted her teeth and focused on the path ahead. Their safety and their future depended on reaching Prescott. They had just entered a narrow canyon when Adam suddenly reined in Rusty, holding up a hand for Abigail to stop as well. "What is it?" she whispered, seeing the tension in his shoulders. "Riders," Adam replied quietly, "coming from up ahead." Abigail strained to listen, and heard it then, the distant sound of hoofbeats echoing off the canyon walls. Adam quickly guided their horses off the trail and into a stand of juniper trees. "Stay here," he instructed, helping her dismount. "If there's trouble, take the mare and ride back the way we came. Head for Porter's Crossing and don't stop." "Adam, no," Abigail protested. "I won't leave you." "You have to think of your child," Adam reminded her. He cupped her face in his hands. "Promise me, Abigail." After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "I promise, but be careful." Adam positioned himself where he could observe the trail while remaining hidden among the trees. Abigail held the reins of both horses, her heart pounding as the sound of approaching riders grew louder. 3 men rounded the bend in the trail, and Abigail's blood ran cold. Even from this distance, she recognized Jeb Peterson's stocky figure leading the group. Behind him rode Morris and Guthrie, the other two men who had kidnapped her. Adam had recognized them too. She saw him tense, his hand moving to his pistol. The men were still several hundred yards away, riding slowly as they scanned the terrain around them. Suddenly, a sharp pain lanced through Abigail's abdomen, far stronger than the back discomfort she had been experiencing. She gasped, doubling over and inadvertently tugging on the horse's reins. Rusty snorted and stamped, the sound unnaturally loud in the tense silence. Jeb's head snapped in their direction. "Over there," he shouted, pointing toward their hiding place. Adam cursed under his breath. "Change of plans," he said, grabbing Abigail's arm. "We need to move, now." The pain had subsided, but Abigail knew with sudden clarity that it hadn't been from the journey. "Adam," she said urgently, "I think the baby's coming." Adam's eyes widened in alarm. "Now, are you sure?" Another contraction answered his question, making Abigail clutch at her belly. "Yes," she gasped, "I'm sure." For a split second, indecision crossed Adam's face, then his expression hardened with resolve. "Get on the mare," he instructed, helping her into the saddle despite her pain. "Head up that side path. There's a line shack about a mile up used by ranchers during cattle drives. I'll hold them off, then join you." "You can't face 3 armed men alone," Abigail protested. "I'm not planning to fight them," Adam replied grimly. "Just delay them. Now go." He slapped the mare's flank, sending the animal trotting up the narrow side trail. Abigail clung to the saddle horn, looking back to see Adam mounting Rusty and riding in the opposite direction, deliberately drawing the attention of their pursuers. The mare seemed to sense Abigail's distress and picked her way carefully up the rocky path. Another contraction hit, and Abigail bit her lip to keep from crying out. They were coming faster now, barely 5 minutes apart. The baby was definitely coming, and coming soon. After what seemed an eternity, a small log structure appeared ahead, the line shack Adam had mentioned. It was little more than a one-room cabin with a small corral attached, but to Abigail, it looked like salvation. She managed to dismount during a lull between contractions and led the mare to the corral, securing the gate behind her. The cabin door was unlocked, as was common in the territory where travelers might need emergency shelter. Inside, she found a simple space with a stone fireplace, a narrow cot, a table with 2 chairs, and some basic supplies stored in a cupboard. Abigail gathered what she would need: clean cloths, a basin, a knife, and placed them near the cot. Her midwifery knowledge was limited to what she had read in books and what Eliza had told her, but it would have to suffice. She had no choice now but to bring her child into the world alone in this remote cabin, while the men who had kidnapped her hunted nearby. As she prepared, she prayed fervently for Adam's safety. The thought of him facing those 3 men alone filled her with dread, but she forced herself to focus on the task at hand. Her baby needed her complete attention now. Another contraction gripped her, stronger than the last. Abigail lowered herself onto the cot, arranging her skirts and preparing for what was to come. As the pain receded, she heard the distinct crack of gunfire in the distance. "Please, God," she whispered, "keep him safe, bring him back to us." The next hour passed in a blur of pain and effort. Abigail's contractions grew increasingly intense and frequent. She lost track of time, focused entirely on her body's demands and the approaching birth of her child. Just as she felt the overwhelming urge to push, the cabin door burst open. Abigail cried out in terror, expecting to see Jeb or one of his men. Instead, Adam stood in the doorway, breathing hard, a streak of blood across his cheek. "Adam," she gasped, relief flooding through her. He was at her side in an instant. "I'm here," he assured her, taking her hand. "I'm sorry I took so long." "The men, don't worry about them now," Adam said. "They won't be a problem for a while." He assessed her condition quickly. "The baby's coming," Abigail nodded, gritting her teeth against another contraction. "Soon, very soon." Adam looked momentarily terrified, then his expression settled into determined calm. Tell me what to do. Despite her pain, Abigail managed a weak smile. Just stay with me. Help me bring this child into the world. I'm not going anywhere, Adam promised, squeezing her hand. Not now, not ever. What followed was the most challenging and beautiful experience of Abigail's life. With Adam's steady support and encouragement, she labored through the final stages of birth. He wiped her brow, held her hands, and whispered words of strength when her own courage faltered. And then, as the first light of dawn filtered through the cabin's small window, a new voice joined theirs, the lusty cry of a newborn taking his first breath. A boy, Adam announced, his voice thick with emotion as he wrapped the infant in a clean cloth. Abigail, you have a son. He placed the tiny bundle in her arms, and Abigail gazed down at her child through tears of joy and exhaustion. The baby had a shock of dark hair and Thomas's chin, but the eyes that blinked up at her were her own shade of green. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "Welcome to the world." Adam sat beside them on the edge of the cot, his arm around Abigail's shoulders as they both marveled at the miracle they had witnessed. "He's perfect," Adam said softly. "Yes," Abigail agreed. She looked up at Adam, her heart overflowing with gratitude and love. "Thank you for everything." Adam pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "What will you name him?" Abigail studied her son's face. "James," she decided, "after Eliza's husband, and Thomas for his father." "James Thomas Blackburn," Adam nodded, "a fine name for a strong boy." As the new day brightened outside, Abigail asked the question she had been afraid to voice. "What happened with Jeb and the others?" Adam's expression turned grave. "I led them on a chase away from you, then doubled back. They followed my false trail for a while before realizing the trick." He touched the dried blood on his cheek. "They caught up to me about 3 miles from here. There was a confrontation." "You're hurt," Abigail said, reaching up to touch his face. "Just a graze," Adam assured her. "I'm fine, better than they are." He hesitated. "Jeb pulled his gun first." "I had no choice." Abigail understood what he wasn't saying. "And the others?" Morris took a bullet in the shoulder. He and Guthrie decided discretion was the better part of valor after that. "Last I saw, they were heading back toward Silver Creek, supporting each other on one horse." Adam's mouth set in a grim line. "They won't be troubling you again, but we still need to reach Prescott, report what happened." "Will you be in trouble?" Abigail asked worriedly. For Jeb, it was self-defense," Adam replied. "And there were witnesses. A hunting party came upon us just as it was ending. They can confirm my account." He squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry about that now. You and James need rest." "We still need to reach Prescott," Abigail said, though the thought of traveling with a newborn seemed daunting. "We'll stay here today and tonight," Adam decided. "Tomorrow, I'll ride to the nearest ranch and arrange for a wagon to take you and James to Prescott in comfort. Once there, we'll speak to the marshal, get everything sorted out properly." Abigail nodded, too exhausted to argue. As Adam built a fire and prepared a simple meal from the cabin's stores, she dozed with James cradled in her arms, content in the knowledge that they were safe at last. The next day unfolded as Adam had planned. He returned by midday with a wagon borrowed from a nearby ranch, along with the rancher's wife, who had brought additional supplies for the baby. By evening, they were settled in Prescott's best hotel, and Adam had arranged for the town doctor to check on Abigail and James. "Both mother and child are doing remarkably well, considering the circumstances," the doctor pronounced after his examination. "But I recommend at least a week's rest before any further travel, Mrs. Blackburn." After the doctor left, Adam sat beside Abigail on the hotel bed, where she was nursing James. "The marshal wants to see us tomorrow," he told her. "Just a formality. The men who found me with Jeb have already given their statements." "And what happens after that?" Abigail asked softly. Adam took her free hand in his. "That depends on you, on me, on what you want," Adam clarified. "For yourself and for James, for your future." Abigail considered the question. The future she had envisioned with Thomas was gone, replaced by something entirely unexpected but no less precious. In the span of a month, her life had been upended, threatened, and ultimately reborn just as her son had been born into this world against difficult odds. "I want peace," she said at last, "safety for James, a home where he can grow up loved and secure." She met Adam's gaze steadily. "And I want you with us if that's what you want too." Adam's smile was like sunrise after the longest night. "That's all I want," he assured her, "to build a life with you and James." He hesitated, then added, "I've been thinking about Porter's Crossing." "What about it?" "Eliza mentioned she's been considering selling the place. It's become too much for her to manage alone." Adam's eyes held a question. "I thought perhaps we could buy it from her, run the way station together. It's good, honest work, and James would have space to grow up free." The vision Adam described filled Abigail with warmth. A home of their own, work that mattered, a community of travelers and locals who would become their extended family. And most importantly, a partner to share it all with, a man who had proven his worth not through words but through actions, who had risked everything to protect her and her child. "I think that sounds perfect," she said, smiling through sudden tears. "But what about the mine?" "It's James's inheritance. We can hire someone trustworthy to manage it," Adam suggested. "Use the proceeds to secure your future, James's future, without being tied to Silver Creek." Abigail nodded thoughtfully. That could work. She studied his face, still hardly believing that this good man had come into her life when she needed him most. "Adam, are you sure this is what you want? A ready-made family, a woman with so much complicated history?" In answer, Adam leaned forward and kissed her tenderly. "I've never been more sure of anything," he whispered against her lips. "I love you, Abigail Blackburn. You and James are the family I never thought I'd have, the home I've been searching for without knowing it." "I love you too," Abigail replied, her heart so full it might burst. "More than I can say." James made a small sound between them, and they both looked down at the tiny face that had already captured their hearts completely. "What do you think, little man?" Adam asked, gently touching the baby's cheek. "Ready for an adventure with your mama and me?" James blinked up at them, his expression solemn as though considering the proposition. Then his tiny mouth curved in what could almost be called a smile. Abigail laughed softly. "I think that's a yes." 6 months later, Abigail stood on the porch of Porter's Crossing, watching as Adam demonstrated to young James how the windmill worked. The baby, securely held in Adam's strong arms, stared in fascination at the turning blades, his green eyes wide with wonder. The way station had flourished under their care. Adam had expanded the main building, adding 2 new guest rooms and enlarging their private quarters. Abigail had planted a vegetable garden and started a small library for travelers, exchanging books with those passing through. The steady income from both the station and the mine, now managed by a competent foreman who sent monthly reports, had given them financial security. Eliza had stayed on for the first 3 months, helping with James and teaching Abigail everything she knew about running the station. Then she had moved on to St. Louis to live near her sister, but she wrote regularly with news and advice. "He's getting so big," Adam observed as he rejoined Abigail on the porch, James babbling happily in his arms. "Growing like a weed," Abigail agreed, smoothing the baby's dark hair. "Just like his father." Adam's expression softened, as it always did when she referred to him as James's father. Though the boy carried the Blackburn name, Adam had been the only father he had known, and the bond between them was undeniable. "Speaking of fathers," Adam said, his tone casual, "I had a letter from Judge Parker in Silver Creek today." Abigail tensed slightly. "What did he say?" "Edmund Blackburn is asking to meet his grandson." Adam watched her face carefully. "The judge says the old man is in failing health. He's been making amends for past grievances." Abigail sighed, conflicted. Edmund had treated her abominably after Thomas's death, refusing her pleas for help when the trouble with Jeb and his cohorts first began. Yet he was James's only blood relative on his father's side. "What do you think?" She asked Adam. I think James should know his family, Adam replied honestly, but I also think we go together as a family ourselves or not at all. Abigail nodded, grateful as always for his wisdom. We'll write to the judge, arrange a visit for next month. Adam smiled and shifted James to one arm so he could pull Abigail close with the other. Have I told you today how much I love you, Mrs. Reynolds? The name still sent a thrill through Abigail. They had married 3 months ago in a simple ceremony at Porter's Crossing, with Eliza, the station manager's family, and several regular travelers as witnesses. It had been the happiest day of her life until now, when each day seemed to bring new joy. You might have mentioned it, Abigail teased, leaning into his embrace, but I never tire of hearing it. Good, Adam murmured, kissing her softly, because I plan to tell you every day for the rest of our lives. James cooed between them, reaching up to pat both their faces with his tiny hands, as though blessing their union. Abigail laughed, her heart full to bursting with love for her husband and son. As the sun set over the western horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Abigail thought back to that terrible day when rough hands had forced her into a wagon, and the remarkable twist of fate that had brought Adam into her life. From that darkest moment had come her greatest happiness, a love she had never expected to find, a family forged not just by blood but by choice and devotion. "What are you thinking?" Adam asked, noting her reflective expression. Abigail smiled up at him, this man who had changed everything with a few well-placed bullets and a heart full of courage. "I'm thinking that sometimes the most difficult journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations." Adam's answering smile told her he understood completely. Together, they turned to watch the setting sun, their son between them, their future stretching out before them as vast and promising as the western sky.